The Kremlin may be preparing Russians for something bigger. As Telegram faces tighter control, Volodymyr Zelensky warns Moscow could be bracing the public for wider mobilization, even in Russia's untouchable elite cities. Is this the prelude to peace talk, or the first sign of a broader war escalation? Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has warned that the Kremlin may be preparing the Russian public for major new war measures, including deeper mobilization in Moscow and St. Petersburg as authorities tighten restrictions on the Telegram messaging platform. According to Zelensky, the Kremlin's clampdown on Telegram, a key platform for both pro-war bloggers and independent Russian voices, may indicate preparations for politically costly decisions.
Putin may be preparing for people from Moscow and St. Petersburg going to the front and bringing back corpses. Perhaps it's the end of the war in one form or another, or on the contrary, an escalation of the war. Then it would mean even greater mobilization for them.
Zelensky said the move suggests Russian authorities may be seeking to manage domestic backlash through tighter information control before announcing unpopular wartime measures.
I think it's to make unpopular decisions.
Until now, Russia's mobilization has disproportionately drawn manpower from poorer and more remote regions, while major urban centers like Moscow and St. Petersburg have largely avoided the direct burden of mass conscription. Zelensky said the coming weeks should reveal whether Putin is preparing for escalation or positioning for an eventual settlement. Speaking to journalists, he said,
"Soon we will see which scenario Putin has chosen."
The warning comes despite a rare temporary 32-hour Easter truce reportedly agreed between Moscow and Kiev for Orthodox Easter weekend. Zelensky also claimed Russia continues to expand troop levels despite suffering heavy losses on the battlefield.
In a month, we destroy the same number of occupiers that they mobilize.
He added that Moscow is increasingly drawing from strategic reserves, weakening its military posture elsewhere. On battlefield objectives, Zelensky said Russian plans to capture Druzhkivka, Kostiantynivka, and Pokrovsk by the end of April are unrealistic. He said both Ukrainian and British intelligence assess Russia has little chance of meeting those goals within the stated timeframe. Zelensky's warning points to what Kiev sees as a pivotal moment in the war, one where the Kremlin may soon have to choose between politically risky escalation at home or entering serious negotiations from a position of mounting battlefield and economic strain. NATO fighter jets were scrambled to intercept a Russian surveillance aircraft in a tense aerial encounter that unfolded just hours after Ukraine signaled agreement to a temporary ceasefire with Vladimir Putin for Orthodox Easter. The timing has raised fresh questions about Moscow's intentions, with the incident cutting through what was expected to be a brief pause in hostilities. According to NATO officials, the Russian aircraft was detected flying close to Alliance airspace, prompting an immediate response. Fighter jets were deployed to intercept and shadow the plane as it approached sensitive zones near Eastern Europe. The aircraft, widely reported to be a Russian reconnaissance or spy plane, did not enter NATO airspace. However, its proximity was enough to trigger a rapid military response, underlining the heightened alert levels across the region. The interception reportedly took place near Polish airspace, a frontline NATO state bordering Ukraine and a critical hub for military logistics supporting Kyiv. Poland's armed forces confirmed the operation, emphasizing that such incidents have become increasingly frequent since the start of the war in Ukraine.
Putin's spy plane was flying in international waters without a filed flight plan and with its transponder turned off. Such provocative actions by the Russian Federation do not go unanswered. We are vigilant, responsive, and constantly ready to protect Polish airspace.
The Polish Operational Command said that the country's airspace was not breached during the Russian mission.
Interceptions of aircraft do not constitute a demonstration of force, but are one of the basic tools for ensuring real control over a state's airspace. Their purpose is the rapid identification of objects that do not respond to calls from air traffic services, move without the required flight plan, or violate applicable rules.
The development came at a particularly sensitive moment. Western analysts argue that such aerial maneuvers are part of a broader pattern. Since the war began, Russian military aircraft have repeatedly flown close to NATO airspace without filing flight plans or communicating with civilian air traffic control. These actions are seen as both a show of force and a method of gathering intelligence. NATO's response has been consistent. Jets are scrambled, aircraft are identified, and escorts are conducted to ensure there is no breach of alliance territory. Despite the routine nature of these encounters, the context remains volatile. The proximity of Russian military activity to NATO borders, particularly during a supposed ceasefire window, reinforces concerns that the conflict remains unpredictable and prone to sudden escalation. A covert Russian submarine operation near British waters has triggered fresh alarm across NATO, underscoring rising tensions beneath the surface of the North Atlantic. According to UK officials, Russian submarines conducted a month-long secret mission in waters north of Britain, operating close to critical undersea infrastructure, including data cables and energy pipelines. The activity, tracked by British and Allied forces, is believed to have involved both an attack submarine and specialised deep-sea vessels designed for covert operations. UK Defence Secretary John Healey revealed that the operation was closely monitored, with the Royal Navy and Royal Air Force deploying warships, surveillance aircraft, and hundreds of personnel to track the Russian vessels around the clock. At Downing Street on Thursday, Healey said,
To President Putin, I say we see you. We see your activity over our cables and our pipelines, and you should know that any attempt to damage them will not be tolerated and will have serious consequences.
Officials believe one of the submarines, an Akula-class nuclear-powered vessel, may have acted as a decoy, drawing attention away from two other submarines linked to Russia's deep-sea research division, known for its ability to map and potentially sabotage underwater infrastructure.
In response to the Russian submarines, I can confirm that I deployed our armed forces to track and to deter any malign activity by these vessels.
While there is no evidence that any infrastructure was damaged during the operation, officials say the intent was clear. The submarines were operating within Britain's exclusive economic zone and nearby Allied waters, signalling a growing willingness by Moscow to probe Western defences. British and Allied forces ultimately saw off the submarines after sustained monitoring, forcing them to retreat. However, the incident highlights a broader pattern of increasingly assertive Russian naval activity, particularly in areas critical to Western infrastructure and security. The UK has responded by stepping up surveillance and coordination with NATO partners, including Norway, to counter what it sees as a persistent and evolving threat beneath the waves.
Our armed forces left them in no doubt that they were being monitored, that their movements were not covert as President Putin planned, and that their attempted secret operation had been exposed.
As tensions between Russia and the West continue to rise, the North Atlantic is once again emerging as a critical theatre where covert operations, surveillance, and deterrence are increasingly shaping the balance of power.